Hi, everyone.
Morning.
It's Cindy. This is an open door, and this is the hour we've entitled Finding Truth Everywhere. Today, the podcast was a conversation with Richard Lang and Bill. Now I can't even remember his name. And they are Sam Blight and Richard Lang. And Richard Lang is protege of Douglas Harding, and Douglas Harding is where the Headless Way comes from. This conversation focused on why people don't just say yes to the pointing, which um, suppose once you get it, you get it. I'm not a student of the Headless Way, so I'm being very careful. I know a lot of people who love the Headless Way. I'm not um, opposed to it. I never fell into it, is a good way of putting it. Um, Diane Scott offered up this conversation. I know a lot of people who love the teachings. And so it was very easy for me to say yes, including Salvador Poe, by the way. One of the things he had said when I started his retreat was that over the years, especially on his 6 years when he was seeking, he found five or six humans who just fully embodied truth. And he just knew it by being in their presence. And Douglas Harding was one of those people. Uh, and I have a 3-minute video of Douglas Harding to play in just a little bit. The basic the basic premise or the pointing in the Headless Way is simply that you're not form. That this is what the way Cindy wants to put it. There's only ever one object in awareness. There's no, and at one point Richard Lang was pointing to it. It's a Douglas Harding, from what I can tell, had a great sense of humor. And he said, "There's no little man behind the eyes, separate." And so there is the awareness of an object and an assumption that there's someone separate from the object receiving it. But whenever you look, you are not going to find it. There's no one separate there. There is this human experience, and they talked about it, but there's no one separate there. Uh, and the conversation was, well, why don't people just say yes to that? And we can talk about those things, and I'll give my list. But this is yesterday, for those that were hanging out with me, you heard me say that there was this line from a Mary Oliver um, poem that came to me, and I couldn't remember the exact line, and I couldn't find the poem, and I was looking and looking and looking, and I sent all these people to look, and after I sent all these people to look, and after I communicated X number of times I couldn't find it, I did. And I am very inspired to read this poem into the group. It speaks to me about this teaching. And so I am inspired. Instead of playing music, I have no music for today. I have a poem, I have a few lists, I have a Douglas Harding pointing at you with his finger, going, you could see the finger, but you can't see what's looking at it. And I have just my list and then opening it up for the conversation. But first, Mary Oliver, and the name of this poem is October. There's this shape, black as the entrance to a cave. A longing wells up in its throat like a blossom as it breathes slowly. What does the world mean to you if you can't trust it to go on shining when you're not there? And there's a tree long fallen. Once the bees flew to it like a procession of messengers and filled it with honey. I said to the chickadee, singing his heart out in the green pine tree, little dazzler, little song, little mouthful. The shape climbs up out of the curled grass. It grunts into view. There is no measure for the confidence at the bottom of its eyes. There is no telling the suppleness of its shoulders as it turns and yawns. Near the fallen tree, something, a leaf, snapped loose from the branch and fluttering down, tries to pull me into its trap of attention. It pulls me into its trap of attention, and when I turn again, the bear is gone. Look, hasn't the body already felt like the body of a flower? Look, I want to love this world as though it's the last chance I'm ever going to get to be alive and know it. Sometimes in late summer, I won't touch anything, not the flowers, not the blackberries brimming in the thickets. I won't drink from the pond. I won't name the birds on the trees. I won't whisper my own name. One morning, the fox came down the hill, glittering and confident, and didn't see me. And I thought, so this is the world. I'm not in it. It's beautiful. Those were the lines that were playing with me yesterday. One morning, the fox came down the hill, glittering and confident, and didn't see me. And I thought, so this is the world. I'm not in it. It is beautiful. I am in God. I am of God. I am with God. So just the general list, which I took not just for the Headless Way, because the Headless Way is just one group of people loving the joy and the passion that came from Douglas Harding. And when he just said, go ahead and look for yourself as a separate being. And this is just my general list, and then I'll play this experiment with Douglas Harding, and then I'll open it up for communication. So here is here's just some of the things that may keep you from deepening into the experience of the truth of who you are. Number one, there's just not enough interest. If your interest lies in continuing to live in the world of separation, then pulling yourself away from that and resting as something beyond that is not going to happen. For those that are hanging in the Jesus of the New Testament course, that was part of that pointing. Jesus clearly stated, you have to leave your attachment to the world and follow me. And to me, this is the same teaching. And there's no, like, it doesn't really matter. A big part of Regina Dawn Akers over and over and over again said when when the spark is lit and it's time for you to know what's beyond playing separate, you're not going to have a choice because separation's just not even real. But until and Helen Hamilton has said it too, ultimately you look and all these things are just happening, right? But if it hasn't happened in you yet, then teachings like the Headless Way are just not going to hold your interest. Or you're going to say, yeah, so what? The second is the fear that arises when you come face to no face with the realization that you're not a thing. There is an impulse, there is an energetic flow here that says, I am my story. This is who I am, and this is why I'm not you. And until there's not, there's energy that flows into that. And even the guides teach that that's all, that is been imbued and programmed with fear. And when you step out and say, I want to know what's beyond that, well, the fear comes up to consciousness and you're going to feel it. And if you don't want to feel it, you're going to back away. And the flow of the energy of being in the separate world and not the recognition that you have no face or that there's no thing here or however you want to put it, it's just not going to arise. Because the impulse to stand still in the fear. The other Dr. Hawkins got a video called The Final Doorway, and it points to that quite clearly too. At some point, you know, fully experiencing the terror, the fear, whatever is going to happen. But until you're ready for it, you're going to walk away from it or back away from it. The third thing that I wrote down is this pull of community. We're very, isn't it fabulous? We're here talking truth, right? But if you are in a community, a family of beings who say this is what you need to do to belong to us, it's going to be a hard thing to step out of that. And so that will limit some people from really diving into this work. The next on the list was the desire for fireworks, and so many of the teachers I love talk about this. Knowing the truth and experiencing the truth of who you are. It's not special or mystical or magical. There's no fireworks. Miracles are commonplace. They're for everyone, right? The Course in Miracles teaches that. So if you have this egoic view and you want the next magical, mystical experience, you're not even going to notice what's right here or invest in it. For some, there's this real expectation that it's going to be hard and it's going to take a long time. And if the work is not hard, if it looks like it's just this, oh, really? You're going to turn away from it, and you're going to feel like if it's worth doing, it's worth knowing how hard and how much effort it takes. There was a quote they used, the freedom is in the center, but does not perfect the human. And so this belief in what it looks like or what it feels like often limits people's recognition of what we are and what it is. Perfecting the human or improving the human is not a bad thing to do, but it's not the same as what we're looking at here. And that leads me to this video, because the next thing I just really wanted to say, conceptual understanding of all of this is number one, it's interesting. It's fun to talk about. It's valuable. Joe Goldsmith I have him in my head. Just this recognition that a conceptual structure to lean back into as you're stepping outside of what was known is important. However, the work is in the experience. It's not in belief, but it's in direct experience. So just a few minutes with Douglas Harding. Here we go.
Our viewer here. I mean, I'm asking you now, if you would, just to look at you see my finger now pointing at you, a very foreshortened pink finger with Douglas's face, at the end of the arm that's pointing the finger. Now, that finger you can see slightly trembly, is a coloured opaque object. Now, is it pointing at another coloured opaque object at this moment on present evidence? When you drop memory or drop imagination and just have a look at what's receiving my finger now, what's taking it in, what do you find there? Are you something taking in the sight of this finger? In fact, how could you take in the vision of this pointing finger if you were a coloured opaque thing there? That would obscure the view. Are you not busted, wide open now, open space for this pointing finger? And the journeys you make all around, you could look all around the room, look at the ceiling now, if you like, and look at the ceiling and the walls and so on. You can see that those are things there. And you come round right to near yourself, and you come to a spot in the room, in your room there, which is a big country. In your little room there, you might be in a quite little room, but in that little room is the big country. And where will you find the big country? You will find it in the place my finger is pointing at. Isn't this marvellous and thrilling and extraordinary fact that we don't ever visit it, or very rarely visit it? And we are really frightened of this, strangely enough. But I say we have every reason to be frightened when we are out there, because everything there perishes. And only this that you're looking out of, only this that I'm looking out of, because it is a where no thing, only that will never perish. And while we're on this, looking now at what my finger's pointing out to you, looking out of that, looking from that, the sea, you can see, can you not? It has no boundaries. It goes on and on and on. In this direction, that direction, that direction, that direction. It has no boundaries, isn't it? Big, huge country. And looking that away, it's empty, isn't it? And looking this away, at Douglas now, why, it's full of the scene. So looking that way, it is space for the scene that is here. So it is boundless this way, it has no boundaries, and it is empty that way, and it is full this way, and above all, it's awake, it's awake, it's awake. And does your awakeness live anywhere but there? He doesn't live out in the room somewhere, or in the garden, or in the city. Where does your awareness reside? But in the clear country. So it is a country worth visiting, isn't it? It really is. So great to share it with you.
So what you all think of either this podcast or what I just shared, or the Headless Way in general, or anything else that may be coming up for you to share? Just so you know, Melanie, if no one raises their hands within the next 20 seconds, I'm just going to call on you.
Thank you, Cindy. You're so great at pulling everything together and making it coherent. So appreciate that. And yeah, I have only had a little bit of exposure to Douglas Harding's concept or pointing. And to me, it was just simply stepping back and, well, the headless way, we never see our head really, but what we're looking from is vast. It's all inclusive. And he also used the single eye as another example. There's only one eye, both eyes, both the physical and one eye, one person, like, or not person, you know what I'm saying, one eye. But the single eye made me think from the New Testament, when Jesus was saying, let your eye be single so that it'll be filled with light. And maybe that's also pointing to that as well, just a single eye, all inclusive. And the other thing that struck me. I'm bringing in some of the New Testament here. When they talked about, you know, in the phenomenal world, everything is changing, right? In the all objects, everything is changing, and of course we recognize that which never changes is that which is looking or noticing. And then remember when Jesus says the Son of Man has no place to rest his head because everything is changing. There's no stability in out there. So that's kind of made that um, related that to me because he said, I think it was Richard Lang. He said, don't rest on your laurels. You can't rest on your laurels because everything is always changing. It's only now, and you can't carry with you anything from the past. You can't rest on your laurels. That was really cool. So then we said, Son of Man has no place to rest your head. There's no place to rest because there's first of all, there's only now, and everything else is always changing. And that can be fearful unless you recognize what you are. So those struck me. And also the other thing he talked about was, how religions bring certainty and predictability and people are that's maybe why they're drawn to it because then they'll tell you what's true and it's certain and we love certainty. And I notice, you notice also with the New Testament, how Jesus, all the Pharisees and all the scribes, all the religious people were so, wanted to kill him. He was just undermining their whole authority, their whole everything that they, the way they could manipulate and hold the people, all the rules and regulations. It was a huge way of manipulating everyone. And here comes somebody who says, that's meaningless and threw it all out. No wonder they were so resistant and upset and to the point of, having to kill him because that message was just not acceptable. So those are just some of the things I pulled out and and I did appreciate, it is so simple. Oh, that was the final thing was it's so simple. That's why we overlook it. The mind doesn't like something so simple and so obvious and so ever present. We love to complicate everything, and this is just so utterly simple. So I appreciate that.
While I was listening to you, Melanie, one of the things that came up was that one of the premises of the Headless Way is that there is no head.
Yeah.
So if there is no head, then there's nothing. Like the teaching that I know we've had this conversation a couple of times, about the Son of Man has no place to rest his head. That's assuming he has a head.
Right.
The other thing about the eyes in the Headless Way, Douglas Harding likes to laugh. He's like, how is it that you could see such a vast landscape if you really are looking through two tiny little holes? Like that's an assumption that somehow there's the ability to see this boundlessness through two tiny slits. And a lot of his experiments point back to what actually happens when you look through two tiny slits, right? You don't get that boundlessness. So
Wow, that's cool. And
it's
even when
just
you look through your eyes, right, the brain has what your eyes bring in, the brain has to turn it around. It comes in upside down, right? And so the brain is processing whatever comes in. So we probably never even physically see what's really there. I don't think even there's
right.
nothing there. Yeah, that's
It's
very
fun
cool.
really to just play in all those things, right?
Hmm.
William, did you raise your hand and then put it down on purpose?
Yeah, because, and I just, what is it I want to say? I don't know what to say. That's it. I feel like that I know so much and I know so little. And I love the Headless Way. For the past week, have turned my camera off so that I don't see it on my computer. And what I love about it is that when I listen to Harding and Lang, the joy, the laughter, the certainty, they just seem like they're so real in the moment, in the moment, in the moment. And so I just borrow on that, I guess. And I love what you said this morning, Cindy. I love the way other people can articulate, and it makes so much sense to me. I don't have to do it. I just love the way they put the words together. The trap of attention. Boy, do I feel that trap of separation, of attention. And what you said, every now and then the words just seem to make a piercing point to the truth in me. Like when you said, Jesus, you have to leave your interest in the world of separation and follow me. Well, it's like that choice. And what I listen like is just, it seems so simple, this space. So when I'm in this space, I've got nothing to do. So I just get to hang out in this limitless space. That's so easy until I get trapped and I trap myself back into words and thoughts, and they're nonsense. And that's what, and yet at every moment I feel that's the truth. That's the truth. I am here. I'm here now. And so when I don't get distracted by my face and all the things that people have told me I am, that I wind up telling myself that I am and cornering myself as a separate object. It's just like, wow, do I do a job on myself? And but what brings me out of it is here now, the joy, the laughter, the giggle, that just being present, present, present. So I love that phrase. Presence always has my back. It's always there. There's never a reason to feel lonely except in my thinking. So I don't know. See, I love just floating. It's like I'm swimming in this warm spa here. And it's great. So I really appreciate having company, and I like splashing with each other. That's what I want to say.
Thank you, William. Mel, before I hand things over to you, Alice, Melanie, and Sandra too, because somehow I have Helen Hamilton, so maybe even Amy. There's this recognition when I was sitting with all of this, and I was sitting to my response, because can I be really honest? The personality here did not enjoy that conversation. I had a really hard time listening to it. And part of me, I was like, oh, this is what Amy means by just two older men, just whatever. There were too many undercurrents of maybe specialness, or this is why the headless way is different, or they were just outside of the realm of who I was. I don't know. I listened to it, I assigned it, I pulled from it, but in all honesty, there were parts of it that it was painful for me to sit in, right? Afterwards, the conversation, not the teaching. I'm sitting and there's this quietness and there's a recognition, well, that just happened. I didn't feel guilty about the enjoyment or the not enjoyment of it. And it did inform me. And I think the reason why I was pointing, for as long as I've known you, Melanie, there's been this undercurrent of, well, it just happened, right? And that's what Helen Hamilton said, there's no part of me that feels guilty or wrong for all the efforting I did till I seem to have done until I got to the point where I recognized it was all happening anyway. There's just this feeling in me right now that I'm not in control, whatever that the Cindy character, whatever, is not in control over this. It's just sort of occurring and it's fun, but I couldn't stop it now. Not that there's no energy around even wanting to stop the flow. Am I touching some of the things I've heard you say over the years?
Well, it really reminds me of Salvador Poe's teaching, on liberation. He's really, you have no control, and who has control anyway? And 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 now is all there is. And yeah.
What's fun is I didn't listen to his week 6 of this intensive. I couldn't for the life of me figure out why I was doing his intensive, and I really didn't enjoy listening to him, and yet I listened over and over and over again. But the personality was not having fun with it. It was such an interesting experience, and there's no question it just happened. So I'm in that kind of, it's like I'm in the rapids. So why bother trying to swim upstream? That's sort of the feeling that's happening right now. Yeah. But thank you for pointing out, because I did. I said yes. I paid my money and I stepped in, and he kept laughing, going, "You're done seeking." And the impulse to read and study and have these conversations, it's all just happening. But I don't, the part of me that's questioning why seems to be gone at the moment. Maybe it'll come back. Yeah. All right, Alice.
Yeah, wow. Um, I'm so glad William went and talked. I feel like it just feels like take me away. You call it floating in the spa or whatever you said, but it's like just brings the sensation of oneness and the present moment um and peace, inner peace is just um I feel a transmission from William when he explains it, or when he uses those words that are, we all stumble trying to represent with words. So I just need, and thank you, Cindy. It was the same thing I had. Didn't know anything about the Headless Way, and I had my ego or my critique thinking that the presenter was very egotistical and, oh, he's nervous, and I was just whatever you call that, taking a score on that guy. And but then I thought, when I was taking notes or in reviewing it, I thought there's so much we need to it's good for me when people explain um, the constrictions or the resistance that I experience in my, this and that, of being with the studies and hopefully moving in the direction of liberation. But so at first I was like, why is he outlining all the, like, it doesn't work because this happened stuff? But it was just, there was a lot of like the death of misperception I wanted to talk about. Like, there's, and it's like the like what in Harding clip, he said everything perishes, which stung like boom, it's not, which is way beyond everything changes. And it hit me like, that's my terror, that it perishes. It just doesn't get out of reach, or it just doesn't, temporarily go somewhere else, whatever that is, the thing I love or want and are attached to. Really, everything perishes. And that's what he said was the connected to fear. And no, and the connection to the Jesus study, that's great too, because I'm like fighting with that too because of my shit, like, I don't, my Catholicism, exile or whatever. So it's all coming, it's lovely weaving together. And drop your imagination, drop your memory. And I relate back to Byron Katie's, like, who would you be without your story? Who are you without your story? And who might I think I am without my memories and my imagination? And it's really hitting that this parish thing, because I feel like my travel here had a lot of components of loss and grief, and people, it's like I've gotten that far to think like, yeah, you got a bag full of that stuff, you're dragging around, and the depth of misperception is something that in like what this world, this leaving this world, leaving the daily grind, leaving the like everything I've carefully put together. Um, and we were talking about the rabbits. I'm all over the place, but talking about the rabbits, and I love when I get somebody's quote and like give them credit for it. But in Law of Attraction, whatever her name is, she said, when you're in the rabbits and you're fighting to go upstream, turn your boat around. And so many times I'll be like struggling, fighting, whatever, reaching, seeking, something. And it's like, just turn your boat around. And people, you can talk about going with the flow and whatever, the ease and grace of it's possible. But so thank you for this. It was impactful for me.
I'm glad. And I'll say it again, like sometimes these videos come because there's nothing really scheduled, and Cindy will go to YouTube and wait to be inspired. I don't really listen to them. Often others recommend. And when they recommend, probably about 80%, maybe 70%, 75% of the time, I just schedule it. Every once in a while, I feel a block, and I respect the block when it comes, and I don't take time to question it. But mostly, the next X number of videos, I think one of them came from Amy, and at least one, maybe two, came from Melanie. I gotta look. But I didn't listen to them. I don't listen to them until the week we're working on them.
Feels like trust. Feels like trust.
Well, something else is in charge.
Yeah. Yeah, that trust. Yeah. Trusting that something else is in charge.
While we're here, is there an update?
I told yesterday that my sister and brother-in-law are roommates in the inpatient, which that's some kind of miracle, wonderful miracle, so they're looking at some kind of discharge plan for both of them to go to. My brother-in-law wasn't at something, Shipley Manor, they're looking for long-term. I guess they're going to go to long-term care unless, complications arise again for both of them. But I spoke out loud that they're going to go together. And then when they put them in the same room, I was like, okay, but I had to deal, and I said something out loud here too, is that it's a double whammy for me. I love my brother-in-law, he's been my brother. He's my brother, it's better than a brother, maybe, you know what I mean? He's a peach, and she's difficult, and he's, they've done heroic stuff with a really severely handicapped daughter, and just kept our family together. I mean, he's a real force. Has been a force in all my life. So, and I love her, even though she's my like whatever, my tango partner.
Your training partner.
Yeah. So anyway, they are roommates in the hospital, and they both have serious medical stuff. So I'm dealing.
Holding you all in my heart.
Thank you. I know that.
Hi, Dago.
Hi, everyone. So great to be here with all of you. Always such a gift. For me, anyway, it's such a gift. I love being here. And I love all these teachings. And I love all the challenges. Because I know it's here for me. I know it in my heart. It doesn't matter what's happening. It just doesn't. Because that's not true. Because everything is God and everything is love. And it's just that Indigo doesn't know it. And that's okay. That's here for me too. And I've been it's so amazing to for me anyway, to have this reading from Ramana where it says, because it has no eyes. We don't have any eyes. We don't have any eyes. We think we do. And Dago definitely thinks she does, but she doesn't. And that is just such a gift to let it go. I don't need to know what anything is. I don't have any eyes. That's the illusion. That's the movie. So yeah, and I just love being here with all of you. We're so blessed to be together. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Indigo. William, you're back.
I just have to add this. And in Alice, my goodness, boy, what a gift. What a gift. What I got. See, being separate, I keep feeling separate. All my words just kind of reinforce I'm still separate. Look how good you are, whatever it is. And generally, I don't feel people here connect with me in a certain way. And then Alice comes along and says, "Oh, William, somehow." And I thought, "Oh, isn't that interesting?" I feel the separation went away for a second when Alice is talking. We're connected. And then I realized, wait a minute, that's the whole fascination. I, with my thoughts, create separation. And then when I find it connecting, it's just reinforcing the separation. It's like I'm still trapped in the thoughts. Wait a minute. That's what the headless way for me is. That it's the awareness, the stillness, the oneness. Now, I can go back into the thought about separation or whatever it is. I can listen. But you know what? Ooh, there I am. Is this oneness of stillness now? And so my gratitude to that thing that's called Alice out there, it's not, no, it's that in here, in this space of nothing, the space of this moment, I saw the illusion of what my thoughts were doing with separation. And somehow the word Alice kind of got me more in touch with how I'm just hanging on to separation. It feels so good when I'm not. And so it's just, I can't lose for winning when I just stop and be still. And like Indigo, I love it. It's like there are no eyes. The eyes are only part of the separation. It's the presence that's present, not the eyes that bring in all these images. That's just more words and thoughts. So I see that. So thank you. This thing I made up called Alice. Man, I just thank you, thank you, thank you. And then we're both gone. We're both gone. I don't I don't see me, you don't see you, but you know what? We're in this space of oneness like with everybody else there. We are. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, William. Hi, Sandra.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, once again for another podcast that every week I really look forward to these. And I especially like it when it's different people who I've never heard from trying in their own way to explain the unexplainable. And there's always something there. There's always like a little golden nugget, even regardless of who they are, their personalities, or where they come from. So I think this popped into my mind while you were speaking, Cindy, although my attention went to Alice and to William. So I'm not sure if I remember exactly why I raised my hand, but yes, I related to some of the resistance patterns. But what I really liked was at the end when they were just talking. And let's see, what was the guy's name? Richard. Richard asked Sam, what did you learn from doing this? And you could almost see Sam stop, and he was no longer the teacher, he was the learner. And he went, oh, yeah, I do have some of that resistance in myself. I do recognize that. And I liked that they did that. And then because, well, I just remembered something about what my daughter Megan. My daughter Megan was like the rebel in school. I don't know if any of you have had one of those, but it's hard to deal with. And I was like the deputy superintendent of the school district that she was in. So I had, the title and all that. So I had to deal with a lot of teachers. So she came home complaining about this teacher. And so I went into the parent conference. I saw why she was complaining, came home, and I said, yeah, he's a little crazy. And she goes, how am I supposed to learn anything from him? And she went on and on. And I said, this is your best teacher right now. You know, this is your opportunity to learn something even more important than the content of, I think it was a science class. I don't know. And I really do believe that. I believe like we are offered up. No, I won't get rid of the word believe. I know now we are offered up in every instant, in every moment, in every stumble, in every problem, in every joy. All of life is, as Indigo tells us, for us. Every teacher, even if we're not agreeing with what they're saying, or we don't like what they're saying or how they're saying it. And they said that at the end in the conversation about having a conversation, how important it was for these kinds of forums. And it made me think of the open door, having a conversation without the need in an unguarded way. You don't have to be guarded, and listening in an unguarded way so that we create as we're conversing with each other, or we make, I don't know, we come to different understandings. And it's like with the Bible study we're doing with Jesus, it's like, let the Holy Spirit speak to me as I'm reading this. I don't have to, there's no right answer here, but there is something for me in every moment. There's something here for me if I'm open to it. And the other thing I really like that they said in the end, and I think it was Richard, he said, you have to worry about this theory of the headless or the face game or any theory. He said, it can become another kind of straitjacket. And I thought, yeah, isn't that true of all the things we learn? All of them can become just another straitjacket, another way of us, of the mind, trying to conceptualize and then build a structure around it. And I see that happening here sometimes. And I think, oh, don't let myself try to put rules and regulations around this concept or this theory, because every moment there was something he said. What was it? Plausibility, something about plausibility, but I thought of potentiality. And that is for me, that is the majesty, the holiness of this whole earthly experience. How it unfolds so beautifully in individuated expressions and as a collective, and how it's flowing. We don't know what's going to happen next. And we get to partake of it in a way with awareness, with consciousness. So, and I guess that's what wanted to come out, that's what I liked about these guys. Even though they were explaining a methodology or a technology, they seemed like they were open and free while trying to explain this. And that's what I got from them. And sometimes when I get a teacher who's very certain that this is the right way and there's no other way, and question people, like people will come up and ask them a question and they'll start questioning them in a way, it's probing, but it's also like trying to get them to see things their way. I think the answers in with each is here within each of us. And stop trying to send them down your path, your way. Um, so, by the way, I can't stay till the very end. I'm going to have to slip out early. So I love you all. And thanks for listening to all that.
We love you, Sandra. Amy Highball.
Good afternoon, my beloveds. I started listening to Richard Lang. Is it Lang? Is that his last name? Richard? Yeah. Probably a decade ago. And I would get these daily missives from him on the Headless Way. And I really enjoyed them. And I had a couple of conversations with him, just through email. And he seemed like a really nice guy. But I just sort of stopped because I think it just lost relevance for me. There were other things that just pulled me into other directions. But I think Sandra just put her finger on it for me in a way. It's just they were having fun talking amongst themselves about something that they enjoyed. And I could be happy for them to just sit and watch that, even if I noticed my reaction being, "Oy," yeah, just let him answer. Stop interrupting him. Just let him answer. Uh, but I think the thing is, I just keep coming back to nothing I see means anything. And nothing I see means anything because in order for there to have meaning, it must have meaning in reference to something else. And there is nothing else. There isn't anything else than what is arising now, as William reminds us. And I don't have any thoughts. And I want to look at William and say that. You don't have any thoughts, William. They're just arising in the awareness that is there. It's just there, right? So don't judge the thoughts you have as being enlightened or not enlightened. They're just arising. Your awareness of them is all that is required, nothing else. There need be no meaning in them, nothing to do with them. Just notice them. And more, and Cindy's been pointing to this, and I feel like I'm on Cindy's train. I'm in her train car. You know, the only job, if we can call it a job, is to stay in the awareness. That's it. Nothing else is required. Absolutely nothing. No judgments about what comes up in the awareness. Nothing. And that in itself is being in the flow. And I'm finding myself more and more, what's the word? I'm finding this awareness more and more constant. And I go to sleep and then I have a holiday, right? The holiday is just being in awareness. That's all it is, just being aware of being aware. And that's what resting in God is. It's just resting in awareness. And anyway, so it seems to be happening more and more, and I really like it that it happens because it feels very freeing, very, very freeing, and very weightless, right? Which I guess is the same as freeing. And I'm not there all the time, but more and more. Yeah. Bye, Sandra. Have a good afternoon. Anyway, that's all I have. I love us.
I love this too.
I love that you're in my awareness.
And you reminded me, just the guides recently just said, you're just going to notice it's different. And I'm hearing that they're like, it's being done, and you're just all of a sudden you're going to notice you might remember how you used to react, but you can't even go there anymore. So, John, you got the final word.
Last word.
We're giving you the last word. Well, I might talk after you. Who knows?
And I put up my hand really because what Sandra said about it. And I could talk to that, but what I like to learn, and the key word is learn, on an ongoing basis. What is it that I could learn from that? And one of the things that came to my mind was the simple idea that that whoever it is, whoever it's in, whatever they're saying, I want to understand it. That's the end. That's the understanding of my responses, but also a clue that might give me would unlock the key, unlock the lock there. That would be trying to figure out where they come from with those kind of viewpoints that they're presenting with me with, and that's an endless task. So it's guided by, but it's very curious. It's very curious, and it hijacks the judging part of it because it's endless to interesting to find out what premises they must have to run a story like that, whatever the story is, and just be open to that. This is my learning opportunity right there. And Sandra was dead on when she said about that this was her teacher, as far as from my perspective is. But what I came up with just listening to Amy there, like in terms of they're my thoughts that come up for me, or whatever they may do, they just arising. So what criteria do I use? If and it's coming more to my attention. Is Is this assisting the spirit in its work, or is it retarding it? And making a choice on that, because how do I want to live my life? In turning that boat around and going downstream, or do I want to keep going upstream? So yeah, it's just a simple question, Cindy, for me, when I remember. Concern myself with acts or thoughts that assist or retard the spirit in its work. Listen to the Headless Way, same thing. It's just an endless inquiry, discovery. Discovery is the word, really. Yeah, you only get to discover stuff after you inquire about it if you're interested in it. And that brings you your point. Like, do I have enough interest? Or do I want to go just into my own stuff again? Do I have enough interest in going all the way with oneness concepts? And as William says, presence always has my back. Wow, what a concept, William. What a concept, presence always has my back, that's I'll go with that one. So thank you very much for Thursday AM or PM, I guess it is.
And
we'll
where you are.
next time.
Yeah. If you're with Kay, it's evening already. So, all right, everyone. We've done our hour plus a few. Man, I love us so much. Let me stop the recording.